Imagine you're walking through a dense forest. The sun filters down through the leaves, birds sing overhead, and the earthy scent of moss drifts on the breeze. Suddenly, you hear a rustling in the underbrush. Instantly, your senses sharpen, your heart rate quickens, and your mind races with possibilities. Is it a harmless animal or something dangerous? This moment, frozen in time, is a testament to the remarkable power of the human brain. Always vigilant, always searching for threats, always, often, leaning toward the negative. But why? Why does our brain, an organ capable of astonishing feats of creativity, empathy, and joy, seem to be so much more attentive to the shadow than the sunlight? Why do we remember criticism more vividly than praise, worry about the future more than we savor the present, and find ourselves dwelling on failures rather than celebrating successes? The answer lies deep in the psychology of pessimism and the evolutionary legacy of our species. To understand this, we must first acknowledge a fundamental truth. The human brain is not built for happiness. Rather, it is built for survival. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors faced a world that was unpredictable and often perilous. Every day, they navigated a landscape filled with potential threats, predators lurking in the dark, poisonous plants, rival tribes. Those who were attuned to danger, who noticed and remembered negative experiences, were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. This is the foundation of what psychologists call the negativity bias. Negativity bias is the tendency for negative events, emotions, or information to have a greater effect on our psychological state than positive ones. In other words, bad is stronger than good. If you receive 5 compliments and 1 criticism in a day, it's the criticism that lingers in your mind. If you have a day filled with pleasant moments, but 1 argument with a friend, it's the argument you replay over and over before falling asleep. This bias isn't a flaw, it's an adaptation. In the ancient world, missing a threat even once could be fatal. On the other hand, missing a positive opportunity, say, a ripe fruit or a friendly face, was less likely to have immediate, dire consequences. Our brains evolved to prioritize negative information because it was essential for our ancestors' survival. As a result, negative experiences are processed more thoroughly, stored more robustly, and recalled more easily than positive ones. Modern neuroscience offers a window into this process. When we encounter something negative, a threat, a loss, a painful memory, the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in the brain, becomes highly active. The amygdala is responsible for processing emotions and detecting threats. Studies show that it reacts more strongly to negative stimuli than positive ones. Furthermore, negative events trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol, which enhance memory consolidation, ensuring that we remember and learn from these events. This negativity bias shapes our perceptions, our memories, and even our relationships. It explains why news headlines so often focus on tragedy and disaster. We are drawn to what might threaten us. It explains why social conflicts and betrayals linger in our minds, coloring our view of others. It explains why we sometimes find it hard to trust, to hope, or to see the brighter side of life. But the psychology of pessimism runs deeper still. Not only do we give more weight to the negative, but we are also prone to anticipate negative outcomes, a tendency known as defensive pessimism. Defensive pessimism is a strategy in which we imagine worst-case scenarios in order to prepare ourselves for potential disappointment or failure. On the surface, this may seem like a recipe for anxiety and misery, yet, for some people, it is a way to cope with uncertainty and maintain a sense of control. Consider a student about to take an important exam. Rather than assuming everything will go smoothly, the student imagines all the ways things could go wrong. Forgetting key information, making careless mistakes, running out of time. By confronting these possibilities in advance, the student motivates themselves to study harder and prepare more thoroughly. Defensive pessimism, therefore, can serve as a protective mechanism, allowing us to brace for impact, to soften the blow of potential disappointment, and to push ourselves toward better performance. However, this strategy comes at a cost. When pessimism becomes chronic, When we habitually expect the worst and dwell on the negative, it can sap our motivation, erode our self-esteem, and damage our mental health. Chronic pessimism is linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even physical illness. It narrows our perspective, making it difficult to see opportunities or appreciate the good in our lives. So why, despite these costs, does our brain persist in favoring the negative? Part of the answer lies in the way our brains process information. Research shows that negative information is processed in more detail and requires more cognitive resources than positive information. When we receive bad news, our brains engage in elaborate processing. We analyze, dissect, and ruminate. Positive events, by contrast, are processed more superficially. They are pleasant, but not urgent. Moreover, our social environment reinforces this bias. In many cultures, expressing concern, caution, or skepticism is seen as wise and prudent, while unbridled optimism can be dismissed as naive. We are taught to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. In work settings, leaders who anticipate problems are valued for their foresight. In personal relationships, we may guard our hearts against disappointment by expecting less, rather than risking hope. But what about the power of positive thinking? Over the past century, the self-help movement has championed the benefits of optimism, gratitude, and positive affirmation. And it is true, positive emotions play a vital role in mental health, resilience, and well-being. Yet, the message of "just think positive" often collides with the stubborn reality of our brain's negativity bias. The path to happiness, then, is not to deny or suppress negativity, but to understand it. Recognizing the evolutionary roots of pessimism allows us to see it not as a personal failing, but as an ancient protective mechanism. By bringing awareness to the ways in which our minds gravitate toward the negative, by noticing when we dwell on criticism, anticipate disaster, or overlook the good, we can begin to rebalance the scales. One way to do this is through the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness involves paying attention to our thoughts and feelings without judgment. When we are mindful, we can observe our negative reactions with curiosity, rather than being swept away by them. We can notice the automatic surge of anxiety when something goes wrong, and gently redirect our attention to the present moment. Over time, mindfulness can help us break the cycle of rumination and develop a more balanced perspective. Another powerful tool is gratitude. While our brains are wired to notice threats and losses, we can train ourselves to notice the good. Keeping a gratitude journal, writing down things we are thankful for each day, has been shown to increase well-being and counteract the effects of negativity bias. This practice doesn't eliminate negative experiences, but it helps us to see the full picture of our lives. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is another approach that addresses pessimism directly. In CBT, individuals learn to identify and challenge negative thought patterns, replacing them with more realistic and balanced ones. Rather than automatically assuming the worst, we can learn to question our assumptions, gather evidence, and consider alternative outcomes. The journey toward a more positive mindset is not about ignoring reality or pretending that problems don't exist. It is about cultivating psychological flexibility, the ability to acknowledge danger and pain, while also allowing ourselves to hope, to dream, and to find joy. It is about honoring the wisdom of our ancient brains, while also harnessing the power of our uniquely human capacity for reflection and change. Consider the story of two hikers caught in a sudden storm. One is overcome by fear, convinced they will never find their way back. The other acknowledges the danger, but also remembers previous storms, draws on their knowledge of the terrain, and looks for signs of a path. Both experience the surge of adrenaline that comes with threat. But the second hiker, by balancing caution with hope, is more likely to find a way through. Our brains will always be vigilant, always scanning for threats. This is part of what it means to be human. But we are not prisoners of our biology. We can choose, again and again, to notice the good, to celebrate our successes, to savor moments of joy. We can learn to hold our fears with compassion and to let them guide us, not dominate us. In the end, the psychology of pessimism is a story of survival, but also of transformation. It is the story of a species that learned to navigate a dangerous world by paying attention to what might go wrong, but also learned, slowly, painfully, beautifully, to seek out what might go right. Our brains may prefer the negative, but our hearts, our communities, and our dreams remind us of the power of hope. So the next time you find yourself dwelling on a mistake, worried about what might go wrong, or replaying a hurtful comment, remember, this is your brain doing its best to protect you. Thank it for its vigilance. Then gently invite your attention to the good, the compliment, the kindness, the possibility. In doing so, you honor both your ancient instincts and your boundless potential. The dance between negativity and positivity is what makes us human. It keeps us safe, but it also invites us to grow. By understanding the roots of pessimism, we gain the freedom to choose, to notice the shadows, but also to seek the light. And in that choice, we find the courage to live fully, with open eyes and an open heart, in a world that is both dangerous and beautiful.